18 years old, please fuck off.
Welcome to Spinnin' Yarns. I'm your host, Joe Amaro, and I, for one, could have been dead many times over a long time ago. But for some reason, I'm still here. I've had a crazy life and met a ton of amazing people along the way who've inspired me. I'm going to invite some of these folks here to share some of their incredible and unbelievable stories with us. Who knows, we may even learn something along the way. There's way too much bullshit in this life. We need more real talk from real people. So sit back, chill out, and listen up, because we're spinning yarns.
Hey, welcome back to Spinnin' Yarns. I'm Joe Amaro. I just had a very interesting summer. I went off work on a sick leave / short-term disability situation as my post-traumatic stress disorder caught up to me after years and years of years. Yeah, they were some years. Long before this current toxic drug crisis, I was a heroin addict for about 10 years straight. I say heroin addict because it was predominantly heroin was my DOC, my drug of choice. But I also did a lot of morphine. I was addicted to down. Opiates, opioids, horse smack, Bob's your uncle. And Robert is your father's brother. I managed to survive my own addictions. Luckily, it wasn't the same deal as it is today. With drugs, people overdose probably, I think, 9 times in total in my career with the narcotics. But I would have been dead with this shit that they got flowing through the streets these days. But luckily, I'm old, and this was a long time ago. So, I survived. And I did what a lot of old punk rockers and drug addicts who survived do. Got into social work. It's a no-brainer. You give a shit about people. You've got the equity lens, and you're into social justice. It's easy. It's easy money. It's where you can go if you're not in jail and sober-minded enough to be functioning in a 9-to-5 position. You can go through school and listen to all their bullshit, and of course, even in the non-profit sector, your managers are going to be full of shit for the most part, and your coworkers, a lot of the time, are horrible people. But this is life. This is the same as if you worked on a professional football team, or you were an actor. Imagine all of the horrible people that Jared Leto has to put up with in his illustrious career. It could be anything. You could work at an insurance office, or you could be a chartered accountant, or you could be a sea captain, or you could be working at a seafood restaurant, and you could be the captain of the seafood restaurant team, or you could be anything you want. That's the lesson to take away from this today, kids, is don't give up on your dreams. You can be anything you want. Dream it, believe it, and receive it. I don't know what I'm talking about as usual, but so I started working in the non-profit sector, and they put me on security detail, working on the door, and I was community relations, and working my way up and got to be kind of like a little bit of a pseudo case manager, kind of trustee, caseworker, supportive housing, all these things. And then they tried to slap a security shirt on me at this one place, so I quit, and I went to another place. And then I just worked my way up there. I was they sort of screwed me over from the beginning too. I was hired for a full-time job, and by the time I interviewed and hired, and then started, they had changed it to a part-time job. They said, well, you're going to be sharing the full-time position with someone else. And it was like, okay, great first impression. You're full of shit. Wonderful. I worked my way up in there and worked every position in there, and supportive housing and accompaniments and peer accompaniments. I'd go pick people up from a big city shelter and bring them for electric shock therapy and different things like this. And I loved the people always. Like they're, that's who I worked for from the beginning. I didn't work for the dickheads, the executive directors, and the fucking educated idiots. Sitting in the office. I worked for the people. That's what I was into. So, and you get a wage out of it. So it was like, you felt like you were, getting some credit in the straight world and helping people out. So it was a win-win kind of deal. And you just keep at it, and as it goes. Even if you are the captain of a seafood restaurant team, years go by, and you're busy working, and just like life just happens, and years just go by, and you keep working. You start on fries, and next thing you know, you're on fish fillets, and then you're running the drive-in window, and then it's not a drive-in window, it's a drive-through window. A drive-in window would be someone pulling up, and you play a movie for them, and the line would be really long and horrible, and all the fish would be cold. That's not a thing. It's a drive-through window, but then eventually you could be manager, and be careful what you wish for, because there's no friends in management. Not that you had a lot of friends when you were on fries, but at least you could sneak your buddies a fish sandwich here and there. What was I saying? Doesn't matter. Yeah, this place started out with lies, yeah, and then it ended up bad too. Like I my wife got pregnant with our first baby, and I went to go off on parental leave, and I told him I need a full-time job by the time I come back, or I can't come back here at all. And initially they said, you can have you can use all your sick days and all your vacation days, and it added up to like 2 months. And then right at the last day they said, oh, you can't use your sick days, but you can use your vacation days, which landed me with 1 month off. And I said, okay, well, you got a month to get me a full-time job, or I'm going somewhere else. And they figured it out and gave it to me. And I started working in there in the drop-in. The manager was a psychopath. I can't I'm not going to say anybody's names, but a lot of people out there who know me and my story will know, and people I worked with, well, and they'll figure it out. And maybe if you don't know me, but you know them, and you hear this, you might put the pieces together and figure it out too. But total fucking power tripping psychopath. She was the worst, just the worst power tripping, like, asshole you would ever not want to meet. And there she is. She's your boss. And I worked there for a while, and she ended up telling me, because I had some, I guess, lived experience, and had some harm reduction knowledge as that was getting started. She tasked me with creating a harm reduction program for this place, because they didn't have one, which was wild, because it had been there for years, but it didn't have an official harm reduction program. So she said, if you can set up a solid harm reduction program in a year's time, I'll give you a human resources position, and you'll move into management, and you'll get a sizable raise, and yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. I do more lies, bullshit. I know that now, but at the time it sounded pretty good, because I was a young father. I got mouths to feed, baby needs a new pair of shoes. And it's nice to, it's really nice to just have a treat every once in a while. If you have a little bit more money than just, groceries and bills, if you could go to a movie or a concert, a public house, if you could get into a tavern for a good fry up, for a treat, that's nice. That goes a long way when you're working. You gotta treat yourself. You want to move up that pyramid and get into some, real treats later. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with shelter or, food, shoes, friends, sex, showers. These are all things I enjoy. But you want a little gravy on your fries. I like beef gravy on my fish. I go to 5th Street Fish and Chips, Lakeshore, New Toronto. Old school, newspaper wrapped. Best place in the whole damn town. That goes for all the libraries and schools too. 5th Street Fish and Chips is the shit. And I get beef gravy. And it's good on your fries. And it's good on your fish. Fuck tartar sauce. Beef gravy is where it's at. Don't knock it until you try it. I'm not the psychopath here. People calling me on my phone, ringing me on my celly while I'm trying to do a podcast, and I got people love me. I'm not complaining. I'm just kidding. I'm trying to be funny. It never works when you try. It only works if you never give up. What was I saying? Yeah, I'm not the psychopath here. This manager. So like I do this harm reduction program. I get it all together, get it rocking. Get them like I don't know what it was, like $750,000 in funding. Busy, text me. Everybody wants my time. I just don't know what to tell you. I do all this shit, get this thing rocking, got, kit making groups and all the regular stuff. And, everything's great. We got a harm reduction program, got our own contracts, we got our own supplies. I'm making, harm reduction kits for the supplies for safer use. And the year comes by, and then I bring up the HR position, and this psycho sits back in their chair and literally she scratched her crotch. She spread her legs. She did a big man spread, and she just give her or get you a big wrench. Horrifying. Like what is happening here? What is even happening here? And she give it a good couple 3-4 scritchies. And she said, "You got any proof of that?" And I was like, "What do you proof? It's you and me talking. Like, you said it. That's the proof. You said it to me. What proof do I need?" "Well, you got to get these things in writing," she said, "because right now it's your word against mine." I'm like, "What are you doing? Right? Like, what do you even think you're doing? Like, are you for real?" And then this whole time I'm just backing out of the office. Like, I'm packing up my desk, and I sent in my resignation on the spot. "One for you." And I could hear her going, "You're going to find your replacement," on my way out the door. And I was like, "No, that's your job." Right? I'm big nuts. And I left that world, and I was just like, fuck off. Just horse shit. It was right around the time my brother died. Like, this linear timeline will be fucked up. I have post-traumatic stress disorder and, all kinds of weird projection transference and psychology floating around in my noodle. And I can't put it in a timeline, but it's all true. That much I can tell you. So I leave that place, and then I was just like, what the fuck am I going to do? And then my friend, my good and trusted friend, and even though I love them, I'm not going to say their name because we're not going to connect these dots for people. This shit is redacted. This shit is redacted. It's ridiculous. This shit is ridiculous. She works for what we'll call, we'll call it the corporation. She says, "Hey, man, I can get you this, this kind of startup gig at the corporation, but it's always move to room up in the corporation. Always room to move up in the corporation. And, it's good money." And, I was like, yeah, let's do it. I gave it a shot. I went in, this was for a street outreach position. And I went in and got it. no problem, and I did it for a good couple of years because the money was pretty great. And although I was living in a different city than the corporation at this point, because I had to we moved out of corporation city to a different city that had some more affordable housing that fit our reality. So I'd commute to the corporation every day, and I did it for years because the money was pretty good, and I did it for so long that I ruined my hands. I ended up in physiotherapy doing hot wax circulation treatments and cupping and all this shit. My hands would suck in just from driving, just from repetitive motion. So it was like a carpal tunnel deal. So I'd had carpal tunnel up my arms. They wanted me to do the operation. They explained to me they got to slice you open and barrel that shit out, clean it out like a roto-rooter. I was like, I don't know. So I tried physio, doing all this stuff and exercises, but my hands, even when I write to this day, if I write, they suck in. They look like they ate something sour. I call them ghost bites because it's just like this big like crater pops into my hand. I never seen anybody else get it or hear of it, but I'm pretty special that way. That's one thing I got going on for myself is my fucked up hands are pretty spectacular. I'm not bragging about it. It's a real handicap. You can't even say that anymore. I don't know why I said that. That low hanging fruit, Anyway, I digress. We digress. We move on. We forgive, right? We're not, I'm learning. We're all learning. So I'm working in here and it's crazy, I was like, the people you got to work with are a bunch of morons, and all the managers are a bunch of fucking morons, and they got us working for the Downtown Business Association, where the BIA will call them up and be like, I saw a man with a beard, I think he was homeless, and they'd be like, get over to this street and that street and look for a man with a beard, and it's like, whoa, are you serious? And then what? Like, offer him services or just get him out of the way, right? They put us in ski patrol jackets and we'd show up, and they admitted to me on several occasions that it was just an optics thing, just be seen. And then they'd be safe. And it was just like so pathetic. It was a crooked political agenda. It was a photo op for a crooked political agenda. And I was a part of it, but, had to get that beef gravy. So I did it, I admit it. I did it. I never kept it a secret. I did it. I worked for the corporation. I was on the ski patrol. I went around with the biggest. Some of the well, not the biggest, but like some of them were the biggest and the smallest morons you ever did not want to meet, and they put you with dangerous people who endanger your lives. Just like making bad decisions. And they'd always send me over to the, I don't know what we'll call it, the head office of the corporation, where someone was trying to get into the president's office. All kinds of weird shit. But I always pride myself on a good job. I feel like I've always been a company man that hasn't found the right company. I've wanted to just be loyal and just work and do my thing, but I keep getting hooked up to these, losers, and it just, it is what it is, and it's the same thing everywhere. I know things are tough all over, and it's not special to social work or my field. It's so you can probably relate, no matter what you do. Fucking assholes, right? So I'm working there, and I hated it so bad that I applied to another division in the corporation to get out of there, and nobody wanted to do this, and it was a tougher desk job, and there's a lot of computer training, a special computer system, a special corporate computer system that they used for this office job at the corporation, and I just did it just to get out of that ski patrol. Because it was horrible, and I got in, and they laughed because nobody passes the suitability probation. They either get sent back because they can't handle it, can't do it, or they crawl back, they run back because they can't handle it and they can't do it. But there was no way in hell I was going back, so I handled it and I did it. And I had to also grieve the corporation because they screwed me around on my money back at ski patrol, so I had to fight the corporation to get my money, and then it didn't end up coming back until I was at the desk job in the other division at the corporation, and just one thing after another. And then COVID hit. Unbelievable. You know how that went. And I guess it's coming back by popular demand. The COVID virus descended on the earth, and the Twilight Zone opened up, and everybody was stuck in a black hole, and it was fucking weird. So the office job closes up. Everybody goes home. I'm sent home, and I'm not going back. But then they say, because you've got experience with the ski patrol, you've got to go back to the old division and help out. So they put me in like strange places, like weird hotels and community centers, and just wild, right? But I kept telling them I can't do anything but nights because I live in a separate city, a different city, far away from the corporation. So I can only work overnights. Otherwise, I have no vehicle, so I'll be stuck, without transportation to and from the corporation. So that delayed it a bit as we watched it just like expand across the whole world. And I was just like, I was just like freaked out. Like, I don't want to go back into the corporation. I don't want to be on the ski patrol in the middle of COVID. I want to hide from people, like, But then they found me a gig in a community center, and I went in there, and just wild, 50 gals sleeping in a gym. Drake had donated a brand new gymnasium for this community center, and these 50 ladies were just laying in the gym, just pissing so much that the floorboards were just floating, and you could see the oval owl just floating in piss, and it was funny to me because I'm not a fan of Drake, but and he wouldn't care. He's got more money than brains anyway, so he what does he care? It was probably some tax write-off or something that people with money do. I wouldn't know. I'm not one of those people. But then we had to go to these hotels, and they were wild, and it was just crazy. It was just crazy after crazy. And I saw a kid get his shoulder cut off with a sword. Wild stuff. People jumping out of windows. It was wild. And they were so messed up. Like the boss at one of them was like, I found out they would. I can't even do it justice. I can't even tell you how fucked up it was. It was just the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. And I worked at a ham factory in Belleville. But this was, like the worst. And then one day I get an email that's like, you're coming back to the office job. So I was like, wow. And then I just go back, and the lights are all off. And I'm like, where is everybody? And they're like, oh, they're working from home. And I'm like, oh, cool. Can I work from home? Because I live the farthest from the corporation. No. Someone has to be at the office. I'm like, yeah, I understand. But does it have to be me? Because I actually live the farthest. And I know there's people in my cubicle section that live across the fucking street. So maybe they could come sit here in the dark. Where's the lights? Did anyone leave a note? Like, even an Airbnb will tell you, and they'll give you a little treat too, a little basket or something. There was nothing. I think they unplugged the fridge. It was weird. And so I was like, screw this. I'm out of here. So I started looking, other jobs in the corporation. And I found this place. And I was like, oh, and it was kind of like an entry-level management deal. And it was like, ooh, big fucking deal. But it's more money, right? So when you have a family, you're just like, this is my number one priority. Like, I'm already in it. I've been here now. It's years gone by. I'm here. What's the point of not having any money when I got then at this time I got two daughters with my wife, and so more shoes, more beef gravy, so I don't have to justify it. It was a fucking well-paying job, so it was like I never want to look a gift horse in the mouth. Whatever you do, you deal. When you have kids, you eat a lot of shit. That's the deal. If you have a kid, you're going to eat a certain amount of shit every day of your life. But that's all right. You don't mind. It doesn't taste as bad because you're eating it for them. So I go back and try and get into this management level deal. And I get in there, and everything's pretty cool. I knew a few people that worked there. I knew a few of them even from back at the beginning. And they had since moved into the corporation and were doing quite fine. So here I was. And, I met some new people that were really great that I keep in touch with to this day that I consider friends, right? There's a few of the coworkers that I had the privilege of working with there, I have a great deal of admiration for. And the management at the time, wonderful. And they knew I had a harm reduction background, so they're like, "Hey, maybe you could train a bunch of the frontline staff here on harm reduction." So I was like, "Cool, I'll use the 8 months." This was 8 months into it, and it was a wild 8 months. Like, this place was crazy. People were dying. It was a big place. It was a warehouse where they put people who were underhoused, and they put them here, and then I guess they get their shelter portion off their welfare check or however it works. It's a money deal, right? Still, it's all money. That's what this is. And they put them here and say they're helping them, but they just yell at them when they ask for juice in a little window. No, you don't have any juice. Don't come back to the window. Like, they don't bring the juice from home. It's not their juice. They don't pay for the juice. It's like, it's actually the guy who's asking for it's juice, but they won't give it to him. You scream at them. Say, "Get out of here, you fucking piece of shit." They're cranky. "I'm shopping for shoes online. I'm looking for shoes. You don't have any juice." It's a hell of a thing. So I come in, I'm supposed to be in charge of this. People are dying. People are overdosing and dying. And, it's wild, right? It's the wild, wild East. But there you are. We're like trying to do the best you can. And, so I used the 8 months I had been there at the time. They asked me to make this harm reduction training as like a site assessments, environmental survey, and so I said, okay, I can gauge pretty accurately that the staff here are at like a 0, so it'll have to be like a harm reduction 101, and I'll try and design that without being condescending or patronizing. And, I won't, color it in crayon, so they, but I'll use some bright colors to keep their attention. And I went in there and just basically told them, it is your job to do harm reduction. And they're like, "I don't believe in harm reduction." And I said, "Well, that's okay, because harm reduction believes in you. Well, I don't believe in harm reduction because I'm religious." I said, "Well, okay, I'm a Christian. I don't believe in harm reduction." I said, "Well, you're a Christian, then you know all about the golden rule, right? Crickets, right? Fucking dummies. It's like that's like the gold. That's like the whole point of your religion is to do unto others as others would do unto you. Black Jesus, white Jesus, Hispanic Jesus, all the Jesuses, the Jesus said that. Like, everybody knows that. I even know that, and I'm a Satanist. I'm not a Satanist. Why would I say that? I'm not a Satanist. I don't belong to any church. I'm a Scientologist. I'm not a Scientologist. I'm a bad motherfucker. Shut your mouth. I'm telling a story. So I do this training, and it was just like it was a training for me to see the reaction on these people. Just like disgusting, just like nothing based in reality or fact or truth, and just like stopping me while I'm doing this like management-led mandatory training, and stop me like, yeah, I'm going to let you talk, but I just want you to know you're never going to stop the cartel. What are you talking about? The cartel doesn't have anything to do with the drugs in the corporation. Like that, you watch Narcos, I guess. That's a good show. The cartel's not here. They've never been here. They have nothing to do with these drugs. And even if they did, like I'm not here to stop drugs. This is a harm reduction training. I love drugs. Like, just unbelievable. It was just unbelievable. So then I finished that all up. Luckily, I had someone else in the corporation come in and co-facilitate that with me. I won't say their name either, but if you ever hear this, remember that. Wow, that was fucked up, right? I was thankful we have masks on, because you could hide your face a little bit, wow, woof. Then I had to report back to the managers, the big managers, and they're like, "So, what were you, what's your feedback?" And I was like, "This place is fucked." And they're like, "You can't say that." And I was like, "Well, that's as nice as I could possibly put it. Do you want to know what I really think?" No, and they didn't want to hear anything else about it. So then it's like, okay. And then all of a sudden, one day, my branch manager tells me, "Well, there's not going to be there's not going to be any more shifts for you on Monday. This is like Friday. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, we're going back to a longer shift, so it kind of pushes you off the schedule. And I was like, well, at the job I pay for my entire life with, you're telling me on Monday I don't have a job? It's Friday? Like, I'm like, I go to leave. I'm all fucking bent out of shape. And he says, whoa, hold on, though, because my people always eat. And I was like, oh, I'm your people now. Yeah, so they're going to turn this one section into a COVID-friendly, COVID positive, a COVID-friendly section, and you can run that. And it was like, well, no wonder your people always eat, because they're probably sick and dying and they don't have much of an appetite. But I can't wait to tell my wife and kids, you fucking cunt, and I leave, and it's just like, this place sucks. This is the worst. So I was like, I'm out of here. So I start looking for another job. Reference checks start coming in, and some of the friends who were with me at the beginning were, it has to go into them because they were good for a reference. And then they let the regional manager know about it, and they're like, no, you can't leave. We want you to do this special project, this special harm reduction project, an overdose prevention section of the corporation that's never been done before in one of these warehouses. So I was like, well, I got to eat, right? My people got to eat. And they're like, don't leave. You can start Monday. You'll be full-time. I can't pay you the role to supervise, this section of the warehouse yet until we create the proper designation. But if you want to start Monday, you can be in full-time and be paid at your rate you have now. Another fuckery, right? But I do it because it's like, okay, I was technically only doing part-time hours. So I was like, yeah, okay, it's a full-time job. And then with the promise of them creating a new official title and giving me a raise. So I get in there and I go crazy. I go to work creating this overdose prevention site in this wacky warehouse. And right away I was met with resistance. Like, the other staff were coming. I was trying to clean up this program. The janitors at the place, or the custodians, I asked them for a broom, and they brought me a piece of paper that you like an invoice that you order a broom with. And like, they thought that was funny. So I swept up the dirt on the paper and put it in the garbage. And I told them, well, we're probably going to need a few more of those. If you could bring a pile in, that'd be great. Thanks for all your help. And then the other staff coming in, and I'd leave for the weekend, and then I come back on Monday, and they'd be like, shit, there's a shit in the toilet. Like, just, a little token of their appreciation. Their kind of humor, right? Real potty kind of humor. I'm a dad. I got dad jokes. I don't know what to say. I don't even care. Rip up all the harm reduction literature I had ordered for the program. I'm trying to build this, and they're just tearing it down. They ripped it up and put it over the windows in my office so they could hide in there and sleep, because that's what they do. That's what they do. All of them. Not all of them. Like I said, there's like 2-3 good ones in there, but the majority are just donkeys. And they were in there sleeping. So I told the regional manager. And luckily they had the locks changed, and they kind of put the word out. They sent out a communication that said, like, this program is priority. Like, give this guy what he needs. Like, to all the senior regional managers, we need to make this happen. And she really had my back, because she had some skin in the game. I know she had some lived experience and lost some people in her life too. So she knew harm reduction. She was not an idiot. She was an intelligent and heartfelt, loving, real human being. If you see this, I love you. I love you. No, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Then, so it started to slow down. I got to hire some staff, and it was going good. And then, I was designing. They didn't know I had to work with the administration. I had to work with the administration department, and they had no idea what a peer initiative was, right? And they're like, give them a $5 coffee card, and I'm trying to explain. No, I have like X amount of, tens of thousands of dollars in the budget for peer initiatives, and I want to pay these dudes, $25 an hour for consultation. It's a harm reduction program. So it's like, it's nothing about us without us. I'm going to talk to them about everything. They're going to help. They're going to have, input in how this place is designed. Had to fight them tooth and nail every step of the way. And they're like, they're disgusted. You could tell right. They hated me because I'm all tattooed and, I don't know. But I was nothing but polite to anybody. I mean, I'm nothing if not, a professional. They're just messing around every step of the way. And I get the staff in there and I'm training them. And I ordered them some pizzas with permission. I had full authorization from the manager to order some pizzas to treat these fine people after like a week long of intensive training to some pizza pie. Like big fucking deal. It's bread and cheese. Jesus Christ. Cheese and crust, cheese and rice, pizza, all kinds of different ones, vegan ones too, non-gluten, sesame crust. Lovely, lovely treat for a lovely group of people who are embarking on a lovely little project. And so then they start hounding me about receipts, and I had handed in the receipt, right? Like obviously my notes were immaculate. I kept my files like just immaculate, and they start hounding me about it. And I'm like, it was like I was on vacation. They did it, and it was like a weekend. They're bothering me in emails, and it's just like, give me a break. I already submitted this, and they're complaining about that. And then I had to start getting money, drawing money from the administration department to pay, these dudes who I was consulting with, people who use drugs. I was sitting with them and talking with them, and I was paying them for their time. Because they were consulting. We were striking like, a peer advisory group and all these things, different peer initiatives that I had planned for this program. And I had took out $100 and then gave the reconciliation with the receipts and the signatures. And then I went back for 200 more. And the woman said, well, here, maybe I can just explain it to you like this. I'll read you the redacted investigation papers and see if that's not completely boring. They say once you stop looking at something through the lens of what you want it to be, you can see it for what it truly is. Dramatic. So this investigation begins. I had a great vision for the wacky warehouse overdose prevention site and have worked tirelessly as a labor of love on every aspect of the program and cherished the opportunity to save lives. But at the same time, I've been blocked and prevented from accomplishing this work every step of the way since day one. During the time, the original regional manager appointed me to supervisor of the Wacky Warehouse OPS, where I created and designed the entire thing, including the space and programming, interviewing, hiring, training staff, creating and managing all schedules and everything else in the program scope, including promotion and in-house outreach, the peer work initiatives, as well as participating in several community OPS and harm reduction working groups, right? So at the time, the regional manager suddenly left their role. That's the other thing. We're in the middle of right when this happens, this regional manager leaves. I was in the middle of a serious investigation led by, we'll say, Butch and Trigger, involving members of the administration department, we'll say Thing 1 and Thing 2, forging my signature on multiple occasions and falsifying official corporation documents in an attempt to blame me for stealing money from my program's petty cash budget and ultimately attempting to extort money from me. And now, I'll read you this. I'm trusting in the investigation process for this matter. I'm extremely interested to see what the end results will be and what exactly will be the repercussions and consequences of these events. As far as keeping emotions out of it, and remaining unbiased, I will leave that to those in charge of the investigation. As far as I'm concerned, something very immoral and illegal has been done to me here, with zero concern for what the ramifications would be for my career, reputation, family, future, health, or well-being. I will be taking this personally. The following is my timeline, told truthfully, to the absolute best of my ability, about the confusing and strange string of events. The evidence in this writing, along with the email threads, paperwork, and photos included, will provide the truth. I first met Thing 1 and Thing 2 in 2021, shortly after I became the shift boss at the Wacky Warehouse. I would work with them on occasion to manage the money line, where clients in the program would receive their daily allotted funds. Receipts for funds previously issued to each client were reconciled. Money would be signed out for clients who missed the money line, or oftentimes for several-day payouts for weekends and holidays in cash, sometimes in the thousands. At the beginning and completion of the money line, I was trained by the senior manager ahead of me that it is commonplace for the shift boss on duty to escort the administration worker to and from the admin office with the client's money for safety and security purposes. It is the responsibility of the shift boss to issue funds to clients, collect signatures, and reconcile receipts for admin, all of which I did on a daily basis whenever on shift in the Wacky Warehouse. Thing 1 and Thing 2 seemed nice enough. They were polite and friendly, and there was never an issue with money or otherwise for the year plus I was in this role. I worked with Thing 2 a lot more than Thing 1. Thing 2 would always sigh dramatically when I'd show up to collect her for Moneyline, and made it obvious that she was reluctant to perform this task. She would always choose to take her washroom break at this time, having me awkwardly wait in the admin office and delay the scheduled start of Moneyline by up to 15 to 20 minutes on the regular. This would also leave the clients waiting in the hallway and keep me off the floor while she waited, away from the program. I tried to accommodate for her washroom breaks and started showing up in admin a little later, but it didn't work. She would take her break when I arrived and would only delay the program longer. She was taking shits as soon as she'd see me. She'd go take a shit and make me stand there to just like emasculate me or whatever the fuck kind of power control that move is. If anybody ever comes to me to ask me for something and they have to ask me every day, and I'm just going to get up as soon as I see you and go take a shit like some Pavlovian response to your face. It was fucked up. In February 2022, my role changed from shift boss to supervisor, and I began the work on the Wacky Warehouse overdose prevention site on the first floor of the blah 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 building. During the process of planning my program, I experienced difficulty explaining the peer work initiative components of the program to Thing 1. She didn't know what a peer worker was or why I'd pay them $25 an hour for their time. Thing 1 suggested that I issue Tim Hortons cards for their work. Told you. I attempted to explain the importance of peer workers and paying them a living wage for the many different initiatives I was planning to roll out, but Thing 1 did not seem interested in any of these details. I went on to explain that there was a tens of thousands of dollar budget line approved in the budget for my program solely for this purpose. She didn't believe me and said, "With whose money?" And I told her, "The clients." And she looked up my budget on the spot to confirm on her computer. I was embarrassed for both of us. I told Thing 1 that we'd need a system for withdrawing the peers' money for honorariums. It was concerning to me that there was no grasp of the scope for this type of program, but figured the admin office didn't need to concern themselves with the work we would be doing further than providing the appropriate and necessary funds. I requested Thing 2 or Thing 1 create a spreadsheet to track any spending of my program's cost center, and was advised to make myself one on my own. I already had created my own spreadsheet to track my purchases, but had and still do not have any way of tracking any spending done and charged to my program cost center by the admin. February 25th, 2022, Thing 1 requests from Thing 3, form templates for honorariums and blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is just some bullshit where they're trying to, okay, so we established that they're gonna be allowed to have $25 an hour. March 23rd, Thing 2 has been involved in the discussions and planning of petty cash funds for the OPS program since March 22nd at Thing 1's request. I withdrew my first petty cash advance of $100 for client honorariums. I was only given a photocopy of the receipt instead of the carbon copy when I reconciled the advance with my signed honorarium forms on April 28th. Thing 1 signed and settled by print and signature section. Then I requested $200 more from Thing 1 for more client honorariums. I filled out the chit and signed it. This is the last time I seen the chit. until Thing One's email as an attachment on June 27th. So basically, I went and got $100 and reconciled it and gave them the receipts. And then I went to get 200 more bucks, and I signed. And they said, "Well, we can't really get you the money for this right now. But sign for it. And when Thing 2 comes back, we'll get it signed out for you." So then I didn't need it because then there was an outbreak in the warehouse. So I didn't need the money. So I just put it off. And there was an email that they asked me, "Are you going to come get this money?" And I said, "I don't need the money right now. Just hold on to it, or whatever your process is, void that shit, and I'll sign a new one when I need it." So then they started asking me basically every time I seen them, because now the program opened and I needed money all the time. So they start asking me, where's this money? And they still had this chit that they never destroyed, because I had gone back and got more money and they used the new chit. I said, "That's the old chit. That's not a thing." And they kept freaking out saying, "No, I'm not going to take the blame for this." Thing 2 was like, "I'm not going to take the blame for this." And she phoned me so there was no record of it, and was like, "I'm not taking the blame for this." And I said, "Well, this is a clerical error, right? You're going to figure it out, and you are the administration. So if anyone is taking the blame for it will be you, but we're not looking to place blame. We're going to figure it out and we're going to resolve it. It's going to be fine. Calm the fuck down." Thing 2. So just some more bullshit. They kept asking me where's this chit? And they kept lording this over me. Then one day I get an email from Thing 1. It says, "Thanks you for reconciling $200 in honorarium with signed honorarium forms. This was incorrect and confusing to me." And I responded, "I just gave you the completed honorarium tracking form to account for the last $100 plus signed honorarium forms completed with SIN numbers for the peer workers. I'd like to pick up the requested $200 tomorrow if at all possible." No reply. This is where the fuckery starts. So April 29th, I asked Thing 1 or Thing 2 when a good time to pick up the $200 was. Thing 1 says, "Come by 3:30. Then I don't need it. So I say, "Can I come get it on Monday?" It goes all the way from April 29th now into May 16th. And Thing 2 is emailing me. Thing 2 emails me asking if I still need the $200 petty cash advance I requested on April 29th and haven't picked it up yet. This is proof that I did not receive the $200 in question on April 28th. We emailed back and forth about the $200. I kept putting off picking it up from admin as I was busy getting the program ready and didn't need it urgently at the time with all of the other preparations I was doing to open the program. I was avoiding entering the main building as much as possible, as it was usually in full outbreak, and the workers in the admin office seldom wear masks. I have an 83-year-old father-in-law going through chemotherapy, a mother who is immune compromised, 2 small daughters, and a wife at home who have been sheltering in place and doing remote school for 2 years. And they're just walking around with no mask, taking shits every time they look at you, like wild pigs. It was at an undetermined time between this day and possibly May 25th, the date on the that I finally picked up the $200 from Thing 1 and admin. She had me fill out a new chit, and again the carbon copy was left with her, as per their process. I didn't question the chit. Began on April 28th, I figured it was signed off or destroyed and void. This money sat secure in my safe until I issued it to employees from another place for training. They were paid in honorariums for running a training for my staff on June 17th. On several occasions while speaking with Thing 2 and admin regarding other matters concerning my program, she had brought up the missing money, signed honorarium forms. I always maintained that it was an administration error which would get resolved. At this point, I became concerned about the admin's process, and as Thing 2 kept asking me for the money and the signed honorarium forms for this chit, my trust began to quickly fade. So on June 7th, 2022, I spoke with Thing 2 in the admin office regarding another matter, and she again began to ask me about the money and signed honorarium forms to reconcile the chit from May 2nd, which had the date changed to May 25th, that she still had in her possession with the carbon copy attached. I again expressed that I did not have any more money or signed honorarium forms other than the $100 already reconciled on April 28th, and the $200 currently in my safe at the program. Thing 2 said she would speak to Thing 1 and that she wasn't going to take the blame for this. I stated that I didn't believe it was a matter of blaming anyone and only a clerical error that we would get to the bottom of. Shortly after our visit, Thing 2 phoned me in my office, which is very rare. We basically repeated the same conversation from the office, and she began to again say, I'm not taking the blame for this. Like a fucking psychopath. She then asked me to put it in writing, my side of the story. I told her the whole thing was very confusing, but that I would try and that I was looking forward to the whole entire situation being resolved. This was very concerning to me, considering we were only $300 at this point into a tens of thousands of dollar budget line. 12:42, I emailed Thing 2, CC'd regional manager and Thing 1. As per our conversation today regarding the confusion over petty cash transactions, I have only received $300 total in petty cash for client honorariums from admin, $100 which was reconciled with receipts, and $200 which is still currently in my safe. I believe the confusion comes from the $200 being prepared by admin at my request and not being picked up by me right away. When I finally had time to retrieve the $200, a new chit was created for the withdrawal on the spot. I believe the extra $200 chit is for the same money that is currently in my safe. I've kept records of all transactions for the program and do not even have a copy of the mystery chit, which I would have if I withdrew the funds. At 1:19 p.m., Thing 2 responds, "Thank you for following up on our conversation. After I asked you where the paperwork was for the $200 you were supposedly given on April 28th, for which I was not given any supporting paperwork when I took over from Petty Cash. I will be following up on this matter with Thing 1 and Thing 4. 1:22 p.m. I respond, "Thanks, Thing 2. Please let me know once it's resolved." June 17th, 2022, I paid for a training session given to my program, my new staff by the two peers from another place. $200 I had in my safe since May. I had the peers sign for the peer honorarium forms for reconciliation as per Thing 1's recommendation. I also had them fill out separate receipts due to the fact that I completely doubted admin's process and no longer trusted them at this point. June 20th, 2022, my program's open for business. My workers saved a life on our first night, and this is why we're here. I signed out another $200 petty cash advance from Thing 2 on this day for peer honorariums. My carbon copy reads that it was prepared by Thing 2 and approved by Butch, and approved by Butch. I believe this was added on June 27th when I was finally able to reconcile the advance. I insisted on taking the carbon copy with me this time to keep it in my safe in return for signing when reconciling. I no longer trusted the competency or process of the administration, which was different during every transaction. The date is written in pen by admin. On the carbon copy? No. Signed peer honorarium forms were collected to account for every transaction as per my process. I also submitted credit card receipts and the signed peer honorarium forms for reconciliation in a sealed envelope in Thing 2's mailbox in the admin office, as she was not on site to meet at our agreed time. Probably taking a big greasy shit. June 24th, 2022, I signed out another $200 petty cash advance from Thing 1. Thing 2 was doing telework Thursday and Friday this week, and Thing 1 was leaving in 20 minutes. Thing 1 said she was unable to reconcile my advances and could only issue funds. I again insisted on taking my carbon copy with me and keep in my safe and return when reconciling. My mistrust grew with the lack of consistency in their process. June 27, 2022, 9:57 a.m., I email Thing 2. I have receipts, honorarium forms, and petty cash chits to submit, and we need some more cash. Please let me know the best time to come and see you. No response from Thing 2. At 1:15 p.m., I forwarded the same email back to Thing 2 and CC'd the regional manager, as this is the most times the only way to get a response. I once forwarded the same email to admin for 3 months with no response. No response from Thing 2. At 2:39 p.m., I receive an email from Thing 1, forwarded with my email request by Thing 2, explaining my side of the story from June 7th. I am reviewing the cash in the petty cash box, and we are missing your client paperwork and or funds back for the following attached vouchers. Please see the attachments for April 28th, June 20th, and June 24th. Please provide the paperwork or the cash back as soon as you can for the above vouchers so that admin can release more petty cash honorarium funds when requested. Thing 1 had attached PC Advanced, that's Petty Cash. Petty Cash Advance April 28th. Petty Cash Advance June 20th. Petty Cash Advance June 24th. This is the first time I had seen the Petty Cash Advance for April 28th since April 28th. I responded at 2:44 p.m. I've been trying to do exactly that all day. I can come over now if you're available. I went directly to the admin office with my receipts for reconciliation. Thing 2 accepted my signed peer honorarium sheets and signed off on the chit. Thing 2 also returned the carbon copy of one of the chits. This is the chit that has always been in their possession and in question. At this time, I requested another advance for my program, and Thing 2 brought up the missing money, to which I again told her I never had the money and reminded her that this was a clerical administration error. Thing 2 again said, I'm not taking responsibility for this, and we went to speak with Thing 1 directly. Thing 1 took one look at me, crossed her arms, and smirked, and I swear to God, I thought she was going to manspread and just scratch her quiff like the old psychopath from Parkdale. But she didn't. But I was taken back by this body language and attitude immediately. Thing 1 said, if you don't have the money, then why do we have your signature? I said, that's a great question, but on my children, I never had that money. Thing 1 didn't flinch and continued to smirk at me. This time I thought for sure she was going to give it an old once over. I looked at Thing 2, who quickly repeated, I'm not taking responsibility, and stared at the ground. I asked them where we go from here, and Thing 1 said, you either give me the money or the receipts, or you don't get any more money for your program. I pleaded that I don't have the money because I didn't take it, and I didn't have the receipts because there was never any money. I asked them who we can speak to and what happens next. And Thing 1, still with her arms crossed, sitting back in her chair, smirking, repeated, you either give me the money or the receipts, or you don't get any more money for your little program. Like Dr. Claw. It has never sat right with me or made any sense that Thing 1 and Thing 2 have ever once entertained the idea that they might have been in the wrong and that this was all their mistake. I realized I was not amongst friends, only two people accusing me of theft, and I told them I needed to speak with the regional manager. I walked directly into the regional manager's office down the hall, told her what was happening, and together we walked directly into Butch's office and told him what was happening. That's her assistant. Butch was her assistant. The fact remained that I needed more money for the program. So Butch and I went back to Thing 2. We received a petty cash advance for another $200. Butch and I and Thing 2 all signed for it. I took the cash and the carbon copy. Butch told Thing 2 to prepare all emails regarding my program, petty cash advances, and send them to him. I thanked Butch for his support, put my carbon copy in my office safe, signed the client honorarium money into the safe, into my employee's office, and I went home. At approximately 6:30 p.m. that evening, I opened Thing 2's email from 5:37 p.m. that included email threads between myself and Thing 2 and Thing 1 involving money for my program. The attachments for petty cash advances, March 23rd, April 28th, the second time I had seen this one for April 28th, and May 25th, and a petty cash reconciliation form. That's an admin form that has nothing to do with me. I opened the attachments, and the first thing I noticed was that they provided incomplete top copies for March 23rd and April 28th, where only the top portions were filled in, but May 25th's chit was submitted with the entire top sheet completed. This is when things got really bad. The first thing I noticed was the date at the top had been changed to 25/05/22. The next thing I noticed was that the date at the bottom was 20/06/22, which didn't make any sense to me because why was there a reconciliation date on the chit that has been in question for so long? I didn't receive this carbon copy from Thing 2 until June 27th. Then I looked at my signature in the settled by section. It's not my signature. You can see that it doesn't match my signature in the received by section. So I signed it at the top, and then they signed it at the bottom. I looked at every record with my signature on it that I had in my house, and there are certain things that I've done, since adapting this signature in grade 8 that are not here. I know my own signature, and this is not it. I was in shock and confused at all of this. I still am. I notified the regional manager, and she notified Butch. Thing 2 sent me an email after working hours requesting the pizza receipts from training, which I had already provided weeks prior. June 28th, 2022, the next day. As soon as I go to work in the morning, I pulled out my records to inspect them carefully. I took one look at the carbon copy from this chit in question that she had snuck back to me, and I was horrified to see that not only had someone forged my signature on an official corporation document, they'd done it twice. Dun dun dun, motherfucking shit pig. Not only was my signature forged again, but the entire bottom portion of this chit is written in pen. None of it matches the top portion, and it's plain for anyone to see. That's 7:50 a.m. Could you please provide admin with copies of your honorarium paperwork records you keep track of for your program to admin so we can compare them to our records and see where the discrepancy is? I responded to thing 1 and told her I would provide everything I had once I was done with my morning meetings. At 11:32 a.m., thing 1 writes, "Just going through your emails. Do I understand you still have $200 in cash in your safe from a previous advance?" I responded to tell her that I did indeed from the previous day. I send a bunch of email threads to Butch and the regional manager as requested by Butch. Butch notifies admin not to communicate with me as there has been an investigation initiated. Dun dun dun, shit pig. June 29th, 2022. I provide copies of all my financial records for my program to Trigger, who is heading up the investigation. And here we go. Here's the photographic evidence I'm looking at here that I can't show you. But I'll tell you, there's plenty of things wrong with these chits. Number 1, the date has been altered on the top copy and not on the carbon copy. Number 2, the format of the settlement date is different from the format of the initial date. This reads that settlement is due on September 5th, 2022 by their own format. Number 3, these zeros are different and written in pen on the carbon copy. You don't write in pen on a carbon copy. It's a carbon copy of the top sheet. For crying out loud. Number 4, the invoice line is blank on the top sheet and reads signing sheets on the carbon copy, written in pen. Number 5, these received from Joe Amaro names are different and written in pen on the carbon copy. Number 6, thing 2's signature is different on both copies and written in pen on the carbon copy. Number 7, these dates are different on both copies and written in pen on the carbon copy. The carbon copy was given to me on June 27, 2022. It is the chit that has always been in question and not reconciled on June 20th, 2022. The signed receipts for the actual funds from this chit were used for staff training and handed into Thing 2's mailbox in a sealed envelope with some credit card receipts on June 20th, 2022. I did not reconcile anything for Thing 2 on June 27th, 2022. Now they're just pulling dates out of their shitty pig asses. Number 8, these signatures do not match and are written in pen on the carbon copy, and neither of them are my signature. There are many things wrong with both of these signatures that prove they were forged. Dun dun dun. These signatures don't match because one of them is a forgery. The top one is mine. Number 10. These signatures don't match because one of them is a forgery. Still, only the top one is mine. It looks like they remembered to add the little dot on this one. In the first one, on the white top sheet, this just goes on to explain like a bunch of points of contention in my own signature that I'm not going to give away because identity theft, and they're going to listen to this and sign. They're going to buy my house. Well, I just included a bunch of papers like artwork from grade 8. I looked at my mortgage, everything. They include their own petty cash fund reconciliation form, which this was the first time I had seen a fund reconciliation form, but they changed the date of the May 2nd form to read May 25th in pencil, and the form is dated for May 16th. Email thread proves I still hadn't picked up the $200 by this time, yet they've included advances in my name for March 23rd, April 28th, and May 2nd, which they changed to the 25th. It also appears to be $279.10 in outstanding vouchers from other sources. I hope that made sense. I know it might sound like the ramblings of a maniac, but that's because they are. I have dedicated my life to my work and have continuously used my good name to network with people all over the world, rallying under the flag of harm reduction. I've called in all my own contacts and drawn from my own hard-earned social capital to help train my staff and shape my program with help and guidance. I commute up to 2 hours to work 3 in the end. 3 hours each way. And have watched staff resist, refuse, and ridicule my efforts. Many people in this work culture do not subscribe to the harm reduction philosophy and would love to see my program fail. Maybe even go as far as to sabotage the entire thing. Everyone knows I designed this program and it wouldn't be anywhere near where it is today without me. This fiasco has threatened my reputation and the entire foundation of a life-saving program in the middle of an overdose epidemic. This is, by far, the worst experience of my professional career and has happened at the most inopportune possible time. I've been given the responsibility of supervising an overdose prevention site in the largest warehouse in the corporation. How I do my job is literally a matter of life and death for many, many extremely vulnerable people, and I need a clear head to run my program properly. This incident has distracted me from my job and made me feel targeted, bullied, harassed, and unsafe in my workplace. This whole thing is disgusting and pathetic, not to mention unprofessional and unforgivable. My sleep patterns and appetite have been disrupted since this all began, and I have lost valuable and limited time with my family. I've been distracted, preoccupied, and sick over this whole mess, not to mention insulted in the highest degree. My name is something I've built over my entire life. It's my reputation, my brand, and my word. My life doesn't start and end at work. I use my name for many endeavors, such as my comedy, music, film, and art careers as a creative, and my advocacy work. I dedicated the entire year of 2021 to produce, organize, write, film, and edit a 24-hour telethon to promote a fundraiser to raise awareness of harm reduction and crowdsourced thousands of dollars and donated every cent to 12 initiatives across the country in my spare time. I also share my name with my 2 beautiful daughters and wife, not to mention the legacy of my deceased brother, whose name I do this work in, and whose legacy drives my passion for harm reduction. I have survived many hardships, trials, and tribulations, and overcame impossible obstacles in my life to get to where I am today, and to deserve the privilege to use my name as a badge of honor. It won't be discredited here with this flippant and illegal disrespect to cover up someone's careless mistake or dishonesty. My name is synonymous with trust, dedication, and loyalty, and I won't watch it be torn down and stained by anyone ever. When this is all over, I want a full admission of guilt and an apology in front of regional manager and Butch, and a full written admission of guilt and apology on official corporation letterhead, signed in ink from any and all parties involved. For starters, thanks, Joe Amaro. Signed. What I really told him was that I wouldn't be happy until they were fired and couldn't find work anywhere but H&R Block kiosk in a mall in Thunder Bay, and they would have to share a bachelor apartment. The outcome of this investigation was beyond unsatisfactory. Here's what they did after it was all said and done. Butch and Trigger bring me in an office and read this to me. They put this in front of me where I could read it, and then proceeded to read it to me. Joe Amaro, Program Supervisor, Warehouse Overdose Prevention Site, regarding investigation outcome. This letter serves as a follow-up to the investigation that was held regarding an alleged incident involving the falsification of petty cash documentation. After reviewing the evidence and taking into consideration information provided by all parties, we were able to confirm findings that substantiate the claim of falsifying signatures, but were unable to verify and confirm the person responsible. During the course of the investigation, gaps in concurrent procedures were identified and recommendations are being drafted to ensure that we are consistent with best practices as it relates to petty cash distribution, including an escalation procedure. And then it goes on to say a bunch of other bullshit, gaslighting, pig shit, right? So they left thing 2 in charge of my payroll, right? Like I said, the outcome of this investigation was beyond unsatisfactory, as one of the people in question has remained in charge of my personal payroll and has severely disrupted my proper pay now 3 times to date. On June 21st, 2022, my paycheck was direct deposited into my account for the amount of $294.83. I opened that up at home to send to my wife to go get groceries while I was sick with COVID. On September 15th, 2022, my paycheck was direct deposited in my account for the amount of $0. And I'm reporting this to the regional manager, to Butch, everybody, Trigger, and I'm saying, like, do you think this is a coincidence? Like, this investigation is on and then this is happening? On May 10th, 2023, I checked my pay stub and discovered a deduction of sick pay and an occurrence added incorrectly. That's not as serious as not paying me, but the fact is they continue to miscalculate all my employees' overtime hours and lieu time to the point where my employees have no further incentive to accept any overtime and refuse coverage. Shift bosses who are in charge of my program when I'm away, as I can't be there for 24 hours, consistently fail to even attempt to secure coverage for call-in shift absences on a regular basis. So that's a pretty serious deal that they did nothing about. But I just wanted to get back to work because it was people's lives. We wanted to save people's lives. So this alone was enough for me to become and remain suspicious of the corporation forever, and has created serious trust issues for me with the existing chain of command and the current practices in place. This was my introduction to the corporation. You got staff who don't believe in harm reduction, locking the gate to our program so clients don't have access to it, and then would go and use drugs unsupervised in a washroom, and as a result, overdose. People dying, and they're not believing in the one evidence-based intervention that we had put in place to prevent it. They basically fucked me every step of the way. I attempted to initiate a collaboration with a street outreach program officer. The idea was to engage with the residents of the expanding encampment in the park across the street from the warehouse who have been experiencing overdoses. We'd promote the program as a safe alternative and tell them all about it. Let's circle back, they'd say, and they never did. I attempted to secure supervised inhalation services and submitted a proposal where we would utilize peer workers from another division in the corporation, already trained and experienced, costing nothing outside of our own approved peer initiative budget. I provided all the information, cost analysis on the subject, contingent on the evaluation. We'll circle back. We never did. All the information I provided was ignored. They always just say, we'll circle back. And then they never do. And then I follow up and they say, we'll circle back. And they never do. And then someone dies. And then I follow up and they say, we'll circle back. And they never do. And then someone dies. September 26, 2022. JB died from an unnecessary fatal inhalation overdose. May 26, 2023. WH died from an unnecessary fatal inhalation overdose. May 29, 2023. MFWK died from an unnecessary fatal inhalation overdose. And on Tuesday, June 20th, 2023, TR died from an unnecessary fatal inhalation overdose. All residents of the warehouse. I've attempted to open the program to other warehouses in the corporation and possibly for the warehouse across the street, or even to the public. Something requiring only divisional approval and a small amendment to our existing exemption. We'll circle back. We never did. I've attempted to secure an amendment to our existing exemption to allow for staff to collect drug samples and transport to another division for testing. Information provided to the Big Cheese was ignored. The Big Cheese has ignored my emails since they took over for the regional manager. Beginning when I requested for admin telework 1 day a week to create program schedules off-site and undistracted, as I'm the only program supervisor who does their own schedules. If I ever do receive a response from the Big Cheese, it's just to tell me that we'll circle back to the issue, which he never does. If I bring up something important regarding the program in a management meeting, the Big Cheese suggests we take it offline, which he never does. This is no way to operate and has caused me great hardship professionally and personally. Butch has been assigned as my direct supervisor and handles my monthly one-on-one check-ins. At our last meeting, Butch solicited an apology from me to the Big Cheese. Butch said the Big Cheese was quite upset that I went over his head. This was a result of me asking a manager of another division about a drug checking service to create a partnership for drug sample testing at my program. Something that every overdose prevention site in the world does. I was told I needed to send some paperwork to the drug checking service to begin the process of making a small amendment to our existing exemption that would enable our staff to properly collect samples and be allowed to transport the samples to the other division for testing legally. I was told that this was at the supervisor's level of authority, so I sent the requested paperwork. A simple floor plan of our OPS and the location of our safe was all that was requested. An email came back from the ministry requesting the Big Cheese's signature, along with a list of questions that have not been properly addressed by the Big Cheese, including where we were at with the supervised inhalation component. I then forwarded the email to the Big Cheese, who did not respond, until his indirect solicited apology requested through Butch. I explained all this to Butch, sent my explanation/apology to the Big Cheese, to which he didn't respond to. More importantly, the Big Cheese has still not responded to the drug testing piece, a very important part of an overdose prevention site, and harm reduction in general. The Big Cheese also ignored my request from months earlier to test any and all paraphernalia left over from overdoses in the bedded programs of the warehouse. The way you get raises in the corporation is a performance management program, where they give you doesn't meet expectations, you get 0% raise. Meets some but not all, 1%. Meets expectation, 2.5% raise. That's the standard that everybody gets. And then exceeds expectations, 4%. So you wait all year. That's the only time you get a raise in management. You don't get any overtime. You wait for this fucking thing. I finally get mine, and I'm rated with meets most but not all expectations. So I complained about the rating, and they have a meeting with me. Funny they didn't want to circle back about that. But the Big Cheese and Butch get in there and make me fight for my supper. And basically, the Big Cheese threatened me. He said that this doesn't go in your permanent record. But you know it does? Discipline. It was like, ooh. Spank me, daddy. Fucking morons. They changed it anyway. Just the worst place. Way worse than the Belleville ham factory. I'm telling you. Way worse. Yeah, all we were doing is saving lives. You know, we got it from the property services. They wouldn't come clean it. They'd leave it go dirty. Where we had created this beautiful, sterile environment in the wacky warehouse where clients wanted to come because the rest of the place was so fucking nasty. And even the head of the nursing left us without oxygen. You know, it's like all these stupid things. Admin forged my name, like I just explained in great detail. Frontline staff openly voicing their non-support for harm reduction and the program in management-led meetings, closing the gate. And then the management continuously ignoring my emails and refusing to speak to me regarding the program, leaving the program dangerously understaffed, while limited employees face irreversible burnout and fatigue, avoiding and ignoring my every proposal for safer supervised inhalation and drug testing to further save lives, all while clients continue to die preventable deaths. Just started to keep me up at night. It was really affecting my life, and it wasn't fair. I was worried about the program being closed after, I didn't want to mismanage the client's expectations. All these things, all these thoughtful things that harm reductionists and social workers in the field who work with their heart, the way they think, that these people at the corporation, they don't get that because they don't work with their hearts, right? They work with their wallets. They're poverty pimps, driving self-parking cars while people die. People die and they don't even acknowledge it. They don't know their names. They don't even care. And it was enough for me. We had an anniversary party for my program. And a client at the warehouse died. Another client overdosed, and when we went out to respond, there was a shift boss who's supposed to respond now with oxygen, instead just standing, looking at the overdosed individual smoking a cigarette. Nothing against cigarettes, but there's a time and a place. They did all these things. It's like sabotage. It's like conspiracy, right? You lay awake, you take it home, you drive for 3 hours, and then you get there and your emails are ignored and someone dies. And you can only do that for so long. It all catches up with you. When my brother died, I took some short days off work to go have him cremated and bring him home. And then I was back at work making harm reduction kits. And then my best friend, my brother James, died from this shit. Overdoses. It rips it back. It rips it back. It rips the scab back. It never heals. Your clients who you love, in their own way, they die and it rips it back. It rips it back. And the sustainability of the frontline worker is not respected in a corporation. They don't care. You could die at your desk of a fucking brain aneurysm, hit the deck, and they just wheel you out to the front of the building in your office chair and leave you there for the ambulance. They probably wouldn't even get a new chair. They'd bring the chair back. They probably care more about the chair and have your seat filled the next day. But I honestly believe that all of this shit, I believe it to be the workings of collective attrition and constructive dismissal. I've been targeted, pushed, and provoked for far too long, and I refuse to accept it any longer. My hope is that somebody knows what is really going on, and they will choose to actually do something about it. 1 year ago, I began to experience ocular migraines and temporary blindness as a result of stress. That's when I got my glasses. I've been suffering with depression and anxiety as a result of all this and have been experiencing panic attacks. I'm not supported in my role as supervisor of the OPS at the wacky warehouse. 0 job security, and I'm being prevented from keeping people safe. This is the opposite of harm reduction. My doctor is encouraging me to take a stress leave, but my commitment to my team and our program is too strong. I want to secure more staff and roll out as many schedules as possible before I take any leave, so I know my staff will be okay. How could I trust the program in the neglectful hands of this management? They won't let me fire someone who is a complete liability to themselves, the staff, the program, and the clients, and they won't let me hire anyone, which is a complete liability to themselves, the staff, the program, and the clients. I also fear the repercussions of exposing all of this. If it has been this bad now, what will happen once I speak up? As a result, I've begun to look for work elsewhere, because I feel as though my career with the corporation has been blocked as I'm slowly choked out. My reputation in the global harm reduction community is at risk with my name attached to a status quo program failing to do everything possible to help the people it serves. I refuse to be complicit. I'll lose my rate of pay, comprehensive benefits, pension, the program that I built from the ground up, and the career I've worked so hard for. Why? Harm reduction saves lives. And the big cheese made the sunshine list with $141,769.58 salary. A 19.97% increase over their annual salary last year. And they threatened me with discipline over a 1.5% increase. We see you. We see you. Today's August 31st, 2023, International Overdose Awareness Day. This morning, I tendered my resignation, and I'm pursuing other options. I don't know where I'll end up, but you can rest assured I'm going to be fighting the real enemy. I'll see you next time on Spinnin' Yarns.
Spinnin' Yarns is brought to you by Hi-Fi Umbilical Productions, where 100% DIY with zero tolerance for intolerance. Spinnin' Yarns is recorded on stolen land in front of a live studio audience. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Gmail, and Linktree at Yarn Spinnin'. Please like, follow, and share to show your support. We're building this together. Spinnin' Yarns is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else you kids go for podcasts these days. Check out our Patreon if you'd like to help out the show, and you can always find us on the web at our landing site, joeamaro.com.
If you'd like to be a guest on the show, reach out. Let's shoot the shit. We're just spinning yarns, connecting with respect and respecting the connections. Peace be with you, and let the peace be known.